Myth number 1. Degrowth is the same as recession. This one comes up frequently, and defenders of degrowth repeatedly have to make the point that degrowth and recession are very different things. Recession, or the contraction of the economy, usually measured over at least 2 consecutive quarters of the year, is actually a symptom of capitalism. It is the flip side of constructing an economy dependent on growth. When confidence leaves a growth economy, it stutters and results in an uncontrolled and harmful decline in economic output. This in turn results in various forms of hardship, such as job losses, poverty, austerity, and reductions in public services. Degrowth, by contrast, aims at a managed and equitable transition. As you can see in this image, on the left, growth is the trajectory we are on, a steady state is stable, and a recession is simply the flip side of the current system. It means less of the same. Degrowth, however, aims to be something entirely different. Myth number 2. Degrowth means a reduction in everything. Related to the first is the myth that degrowth means a blanket reduction in all economic sectors. Degrowth scholarship, however, makes it very clear that while there are certain sectors which need to be made much smaller, others actually need to be expanded. In particular, highly polluting sectors such as the fossil fuel industry, which are harmful to ecological and human well-being, will need to be curtailed. Degrowth advocates point out, however, that sectors which improve qualitative well-being and environmental conditions without costing the earth, such as social care, some forms of education, and some public infrastructures for green energy, will often have to be expanded to meet fundamental human needs. Of course, the actual implementation of this is a more complex matter and should be discussed and democratically led, but we can say with certainty that degrowth does not mean a simple reduction in all sectors of the economy. Degrowth, in this other representation, is merely the democratic process or stage which takes us from growth and overshoot to something approaching a steady state. Myth number 3. Degrowthers want everyone to be poor. Here we get to some of the more ill-intentioned and disingenuous generalizations which are made by critics of degrowth. How we measure and conceive of poverty is of course highly political. Degrowth advocates aim for reframing wealth towards collective well-being and commonwealth, rather than the treadmill of personal income and interpersonal comparison or even competition in consumer societies. One slogan, for instance, which is popular in this sphere is private sufficiency, public luxury, whereby people will still have access to luxury goods beyond their basic needs, but it will come in the form of collective luxury, say a €4 million tram, available freely and affordably for use by all citizens, rather than an expensive car used exclusively by a member of the elite and resulting in domination of public space. Much work on degrowth focuses on policies and potential methods of actually reducing poverty and improving life for the most vulnerable, such as guaranteed and universal basic income, or universal basic services. Myth number 4. Degrowthers hate modernity or progress or development, or they want to go back. This one is commonly heard from critics and involves a fundamental misunderstanding of what degrowth aims to achieve. Degrowth thinkers are certainly skeptical of vague and ideological terms like progress or development, which have historically been used to subjugate societies viewed as lesser or backwards. They question this constellation of ideas which tries to assert that capitalist forms of development, which undermine the conditions of life on Earth, can be thought of as progress or development. However, the idea that this implies going back or regressing in time is simply a myth. There is no going back. Rather, much work on degrowth seeks viable and equitable ways of moving forward to more sustainable futures. They seek the means for prosperity without growth, as the title of one well-known book puts it. In practice, this may include inspiration from more sustainable lifeways from the past and present, including things like traditional ecological knowledge. But it will also entail entirely new, even innovative or creative, ways of relating to one another that we can currently only imagine. Myth number 5. The degrowth movement is just a small group of out-of-touch, professional-class Western academics. This is one challenge which must be taken seriously, of course. Certainly, degrowth as an idea has emerged most prominently in Western Europe and is coloured by that. However, degrowth draws on a pluriverse of perspectives and includes voices from different geographical areas and social classes. More work than ever before, for instance, is being done on degrowth from feminist, indigenous and global south perspectives, to name just a few. Degrowth activists are increasingly working with trade unions and incorporating worker perspectives. So generalizing to say that degrowth advocates are only professional class or middle class, for instance, is simply impossible to do. Degrowth itself contains a diversity of schools and approaches, from Marxists and anti-statist anarchists to liberals and reformists, though it can always work towards greater diversity and alternative viewpoints. This then is more of an ad hominem attack, that avoids actually dealing with the content of any degrowth program. So those are 5 key myths about degrowth. What do you think about debates on this topic? Are there any myths or perspectives which might not have been addressed here? If you have any thoughts, let us know in the comments and share this video with anyone who you think might benefit from it. And for more topics like this, check out the degrowth and postgrowth debates playlist elsewhere on this channel.